A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition. So, first of all, let us cover the topics that we are doing. So, from the explainer section, we have Mihir Bhoj and the Gyan Vapi temple issue. So, these two are important. Mihir Bhoj, from the point of view of GS1, tripartite struggle is mentioned in a syllabus. Okay, moving onto the opinion section. We have an opinion on the National Commission for Women. Very important topic. This has been mentioned with reference to Manipur. So issues concerning the NCW is something that we can look at. In fact, in the year 2017, a mains-based question was asked. I'll discuss the question. Next, smoke signals, that is corporate results of various companies have been revealed. And from there, what do we know about the economy? So editorial, short one, we'll cover. Bridge to Colombo. So Sri Lanka's president had come to India. So a short analysis on the same has been mentioned. Then there is one on PM Vani praising the scheme, but we will refer to the features from a different website. So this was the explainer and the opinion. Now normal news, we have one on depression amongst students. There has been an unfortunate incident of a 15-year-old boy committing suicide. So depression among students is, we can look at this topic or issues concerning adolescents. Okay. Then delimitation exercise in Assam has been challenged. So we'll look at what is delimitation from the point of view of polity, prelims. Mains also, of course. Okay. Mehdi Wildlife Sanctuary to be declared as tiger conservation, tiger sanctuary. So this again is important because this wild, this sanctuary is there in the news. So sanctuary associated river, basic ideas, we should have sanctuary associated state. So that much we should know. Then the finance minister was making a speech with reference to the improved performance of the income tax authorities, good direct tax collection. Direct tax means income tax and corporate tax. So recently ITR was to be filed. So in that context, we have this article. So we'll refer to this issues concerning direct tax, basic idea we should have. Now coming to the front page. Exposed and shut, Panama Papers law firm outsourced its offshore deals to Kerala accountant. Fine. Sometime in 2016, there emerged a controversy. Wherein prominent people across the world, not just India, but across the world, they were mobilizing their capital outside of the country. So various important personalities of India were also named. Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, and Russia's President Putin, so that they are they are laundering money to another jurisdiction, a low tax jurisdiction such as Panama. So this thing had come to line. This documents which had the name of the people, the funds, etc., was leaked by international consortium of journalists. So that had happened, right? So this brings to light the issue of money laundering. So now recently it has come to light that a Kerala accountant was providing its services. But that is not the important thing. The important thing is money laundering, which is important from the point of view of internal security. This is a topic that is very frequently asked in the mains paper. So this is something that we must prepare. Moving on, as you can see on the right side, calling special House session in June was patently illegal, Governor of Punjab tells the Chief Minister of Punjab. Now, this is a classic case of tussle between the governor and the elected representatives of the state. So this we are seeing in Tamil Nadu, in Punjab, earlier in Maharashtra also. So this is something that is a recurring topic. That is tension between the two parties. Okay. Now let me briefly tell you, special session was a 2-day session that took place in the month of June, of course, in June. And 2-3 bills were introduced. So one was that the governor should not be the chancellor of universities. So bill for that was introduced, and the second one was telecast of the proceedings from Sri Harminder Sahib. Right. So for Sikhs, it is very important. Golden Temple. Okay. So these two bills were to be brought in, but the with this all this happening and the governor saying that this proceeding was illegal, calling of this special session, so that means that the bills will also not be passed. Okay. Now moving on to the parliament, what is happening? So parliament, as you can see from the image, there is a log jam. There is a lack of any process that is going on. Okay. The opposition wants to corner the government on the issue of Manipur. They demand statements from the Prime Minister, which the government is obviously refusing. Next, government approves increased EPF. EPF is Employees Provident Fund, and EPF is managed by the Employees Provident Fund Organization, a statutory body which comes under Ministry of Labor. That is all which is important from our exam point of view. This has already been asked. So EPF, we think it should come under Ministry of Finance, but it comes under Ministry of Labor. Now the EPF interest rate is at 8.15%, a bit above the rates that the banks are offering. So it is above this. So there is a tussle that is going on between Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Labor. The Labor Ministry wants to keep it high, while Finance Ministry wants to rationalize it with the normal interest rates that the banks offer. So moving on. So we'll just be skipping, actually most of it would be skipping. Center clear subsidy for 3.25 crore for those who installed solar plants. So this is basically for residential units. They were required to put this solar plants. So in urban areas, you must have seen, center did not make a payment for 4 years, citing a shortage of funds, and subsequently they have done. Now what I was saying was that the the payments that are being done is based on units called as KWP. Now we know units as kilowatt hour, kWh, but here KWP was used. So this is the only thing that I wanted to discuss. So what is KWP? So it is the peak power capability of a solar panel or solar system. Right. So at the peak time, the maximum electricity that the solar panel can generate is known as KWP. Because obviously the panel is there, its productivity depends, how much electricity depends on the intensity of the sun rays. So the max or the peak that can be developed is known as KWP. So not important, this issue. Kasoli MLA to raise issue of depression among students. So student Ayush Chandel unfortunately committed suicide. He tried to reach out to his fellow friends, people he knew before taking this tragic step. Now here we can bring up the issue of adolescents from the point of view of GS1 Indian society. So the issues and challenges that they face. Likewise, with adolescents, we are talking about likewise, we can also discuss about elderly population. So what issues and challenges that they face, what needs to be done. So from society perspective, we can take this up. Now over here, the Kasoli MLA said that we need to have more psychologists and counselors. And we need to bring in students into the fold of sports. Most of them are distracted with social media and they are living in the virtual world. So they should be engaged in sports. So that will help them not move into the issue of depression. So these are certain things that have been mentioned. So basically 2 things are mentioned in context of social media actually. So one of the things, so 3 points are there. Then I think besides this, we can also talk about parent sensitization of the public. So that can be done. Then with reference to marks, relationships, so those issues are the priority issues that can be considered. Okay. Yeah, this is just the opposition strategy on Manipur. So they believe that it is a blow to the center on three fronts: law and order, double engine government, that is in state as well as the center. There is the government of BJP, and women's welfare. Government introduces two new health bills in House. So two new health bills. So that is National Dental Commission Bill and National Nursing and Midwifery Commission Bill. So it's basically about regulation of dentistry. So they want to establish a regulatory body on similar lines of the National Medical Commission. So earlier there used to be a Medical Council of India. This was replaced by National Medical Commission, and its responsibility is to regulate the profession of medicine. So normal MBBS, etc. Now for dentistry also they want something on lines of NMC as well as for nursing and midwifery. I don't really think it is important for exam. It is just that this topic was there. If just in case if you're wondering what is this is a fuel tank. So fighter plane dropped this due to some technical malfunction. Nobody died, nothing happened. DNA technology bill withdrawn from Lok Sabha. This may be important. So I would suggest refer the PRS for the same. Okay. If you want me to make videos on the PRS and take up the important bills, you can let me know. We can have a separate playlist on the same. Okay. So DNA technology bill. So basically the main issue was that the thing that is mentioned over here. So DNA, we all know what, basically we know DNA, right? And the main thing is it helps us in identification. For example, a missing person, a crime scene, even parentage. So it helps us in identification. Now the DNA bill was introduced by Ministry of Science and Technology. But the most of the features of this DNA technology bill was relating to criminal aspects. That is crime related aspects, identification of criminals, tracing of missing persons, which are domain of the Ministry of Home Affairs. So on that grounds, it has been taken away, right? So that's the main issue. Now moving on to the next article. Process already on. Supreme Court refuses to stay delimitation of seats in Assam. So first thing first, what is a delimitation? Delimitation is redrawing the boundaries of the constituencies or redefining the constituencies. So the parliament, the constitution, Article 82 of the constitution as well as Article 170 provides that after every census, delimitation exercise has to be done. Now, mind you, delimitation can be for the whole of country or it could be with respect to a particular state. For example, here we see it for Assam. Previously, we heard it for West Bengal, then for Jammu and Kashmir, Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. Now, this delimitation exercise typically is done by the Delimitation Commission of India, which is appointed by the central government. The president appoints the members. It normally has a retired judge of the Supreme Court, the chief election commissioner, and it has the election commissioners from the respective state. So state election commission member is there, commissioner is there. So these three are there. This is for again for respective states. So the Delimitation Commission of India is expected to work in tandem with Election Commission of India. Now this thing should make it clear that Delimitation Commission is different. Election Commission is different. Election Commission is only responsible for conduct of elections, while delimitation delimits the boundaries of the constituencies. Okay, so they give their recommendations, they do the survey, etc., and based on that, the parliament is required to pass a law confirming the recommendations of the delimitation commission. Then the constituencies are adjusted. So parliament does it, and parliament cannot modify it. Nobody can modify what has been recommended. Now over here, there is an exception. Delimitation of seats in Assam, there is an exception over here. So there is section 8A of the Representation of Peoples Act 1950, which allows election commission to conduct delimitation in the states of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, and Nagaland. And this will be constitutionally valid. So this is being challenged on the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has stayed, is refused to stay delimitation of seats, that we will not stop it from happening. We will not delay it. Now coming to the explained section. So obviously we are not really interested in what is happening in Twitter. Row in Haryana BJP over the issue of Mihir Bhoj's caste. Okay. So BJP, again, just BJP alone. So BJP in Kaithal, the plague of Mihir Bhoj, the famous Gurjar Pratihara king, and he is important from tripartite struggle point of view. Okay. So it had meant reference of Gurjar Pratihar Samrat Mihir Bhoj, so mention of Gurjar. While the BJP from Rajput, BJP leaders from the Rajput community, they had a problem with this, that he is not being referred to as Hindu Samrat. Right. So this controversy has emerged. So good thing for us is that we get a topic to prepare for our exam. So Mihir Bhoj. Now who was Mihir Bhoj? So Mihir Bhoj naturally was from Gurjar Pratihara dynasty. He belonged to this. He was a 9th century king dating 836 to 885 Common Era. He was an ambitious king who defended the Pratiharas, who actually, let me just explain tripartite, it becomes easier for me. So this is India, Rajput region, Rajputana region, Gurjar Pratiharas. So Pratiharas were here, Palas in Bengal, Palas of Bengal, and Rashtrakutas in the Deccan. So there was a tripartite struggle that was going on, that is the struggle between the Rashtrakutas, the Pratiharas, and Palas. And Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas were in particular fighting for the territories of Kannauj. Kannauj is the Doab area, the land of the two rivers between Ganga and Yamuna, so highly fertile areas. So whosoever gets it controls the most of the power, because this land is very fertile, good revenue will come, so all that benefits are there. So Mihir Bhoj was able to defeat the Palas, the Rashtrakutas, right? He was able to restore the glories of the Gurjar Pratihara group. And one more important service he did was he defended against the Arabs who were coming from the west. So this was the achievement of Mihir Bhoj. Besides, obviously, we can refer to the Wikipedia page, contributions in art and culture, the temples that were built. So those are also important. Now here, the professors from Chandigarh's Punjab University, they have tried to explain this. They said that it is no issue with this. So first of all, he must be from the Gurjar Pratihara community, so that is fine. Gurjars are nomadic tribal people. And most of the kings during that time, for society to get accepted and become a king, they would claim Kshatriya status. So it's both. There is no controversy as such that he may be a Gurjar, at the same time he would have claimed himself to be from the Kshatriya group. So he's a Hindu Samrat at the same time. So there is nothing to be worried about. In fact, the the more distinctions in the caste is actually seen in the present times. So clear caste lines as we understand them have emerged only recently. So there is no problem as such. Now moving on, the legal dispute in Kashi. So this is with reference to the Gyan Vapi mosque survey. So Gyan Vapi mosque is a 17th century mosque that was built by Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb is infamous for destruction of temples and building mosque on it. So it's believed that this mosque was built by destroying Kashi Vishwanath temple. Right, so Kashi Vishwanath temple. So this happened in around this time period, 1600, 1700, it happened. So what is the issue? Now recently, women, they filed a petition that they should be allowed to worship Mas Srinagar Gauri. So on the temple, on the mosque premises, on the side, they used to worship, but from some 2 decades, they have not been allowed to worship. So they wanted to worship, they filed a petition. Eventually some viral photos came up where it was showed that there is shivling also in the Gyan Vapi mosque. Okay, so overall issue I think should be clear. These things have happened. Now moving on, we have a law known as Places of Worship Act 1991. So in this there is section 4 which states that a place of religious character, there'll be a lot of places of Hindu sites which have been converted into mosque, or so that has happened. So whatever the structure was in 1947, that will remain. So there'll be a status quo post 1947, 15th August 1947. Now the Hindu petitioners have contended that until 1993, when that Babri Masjid issue took place, regular prayers were offered inside the mosque complex to Hindu deities. So it is only since 1993 this has changed. Now this act, the act that we were referring to, Places of Worship Act, provided an exception with reference to the Ram Janmabhoomi temple. Right? So for that there was an exception. Now coming to the normal news now. Notify Madhei Sanctuary in this is a wildlife park in Goa. So the High Court is saying Bombay High Court, which is in part of it is in Goa also. So the Goa bench is saying that this sanctuary should be declared as a tiger reserve. So this should be declared as a tiger reserve, because a lot of incidents of tiger sightings have been happened. So the National Tiger Conservation Authority has also recommended that this should be declared as a tiger reserve, but the state government is not willing to do so. So High Court has given a dictate that this has to be changed. Now this is in accordance with the Wildlife Protection Act, Section 38(5). So Wildlife Protection Act is about the declaration of institutions, declaration of sanctuaries, etc. So that is coming from the Wildlife Protection Act. Freedom Center plans memorial for brave hearts in all villages. There will be a small statue in prominent places put up, and these will be dubbed as Shila Falakam. This is a Malayalam word which is meaning a plaque. Okay. Now coming to the editorial and the opinion page. So first of all, I think the most important one is the failures of the commission, which is National Commission for Women. So main points I have listed over here. Now, actually, there was no need to read this. So one second, let me just make it clear. These points that are there, this is for the smoke signals, but this article does not really warrant a reading, because the main things are mentioned, the issues, the failures are mentioned just here. So in the initial part, the author was a former member of the NCW. So initially, it is just telling us about the constitution of the NCW, the working. So those are mentioned, which we should know. Okay. So this is the composition, right? So it can be easily found. Then the works they do, they are basically responsible for the issues concerning the welfare of the women. By the way, in the year 2017, a question was asked. This is in the is the National Commission of Women able to strategize and tackle the problems that women face at both public and private spheres? Give reasons in support of your answers. Right. So this was the only question that we have on the NCW. Now here the author, by the way, NCW is a statutory body. Okay. Now here the author, first of all, she's saying that this is a toothless tiger. That the body is created, but it doesn't really have the teeth. If some authority like police, etc., there is some issue, they really do not have the teeth to take action on people. Some other issue has taken place. That is one issue, toothless tiger. And that is true for most of the people, most of the authorities, Human Rights Commission, be it with reference to a National Commission for Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribe, all of them say that we are a toothless tiger. That is the first thing. Then, besides this, they're saying that people are involved, most of the work is paperwork rather than field visits. Then there are political appointments. BJP is there, so BJP related people will be put in over there. So rather than people who are actually interested in doing good work, we are having more of political appointments. So center nominates that who should be the member, and accordingly the appointments are made. So what the author is saying, that the posts should be advertised so that the people who are genuinely interested in that issue should be members of the body. Besides, they're saying that there should be social audits. So one is financial audit. This is social audit. That is, what are the outcomes of the actions of the NCW? These issues have taken place. What has NCW done in that regard? So that social audit should be done, and this should be in public domain, because all these institutions are funded by the public taxpayers' money. So that this should be in public domain. So it's about bringing in more accountability in the functioning of the NCW. Moving on to the next article, smoke signals. So HUL result was out, it was good. And they said that rural demand is good. So FMCG company sells everywhere. So rural population has to buy for their result to be good. Infosys has recently said that projection is not good, revenue guidance for the next year. So this is indicative of the global demand, because Infosys is an exporter of services. Then with reference to banks, they have cited good, healthy numbers. So indicative of credit growth. Credit growth means corporates, etc., are borrowing money. From there only they will get money, right? Okay. So good credit growth is going on. Now, by the way, only yesterday we mentioned that there was 2.09 lakh crore of NPAs. So I don't know which one to believe. Moving on now, concerns, the smoke signals. Even though we hear all these good numbers, but we are also seeing that more of the youth have applied for NREGA, unskilled labor work, so manual work they want to do. So this is indicative that people are not getting jobs. Non-farm jobs are not non-existing. Then there was an RBI report which suggested moderation in real wages in rural areas. So wages are not good in rural areas. Now you see here HUL is saying rural demand is good, while here we are seeing more unemployment and wages are not going up. So this is quite contradictory. Besides, the other challenges that the economy has at the moment is monetary policy. So with monetary policy, should it, we are seeing the concerns about inflation. So should we increase the monetary policy to check inflation? And if we increase, it will affect the growth. It will affect the interest rate. So the credit will get more expensive as a result of this. Besides US Federal Bank, it is likely that in the next meeting it will increase the interest rate. When they do increase interest rate, the money dollars that are parked in India, normally they go outside of India back to US because they earn better returns. Because of this, the dollar depreciates, the crude becomes more expensive, gold becomes more expensive. So that is how this thing works. Now coming to bridge to Colombo, this is with reference to Sri Lanka's president coming to India, the 2-day visit which took place. So in this, both the leaders framed a vision document. So vision document was adopted between India and Sri Lanka, where they talked about strengthening maritime cooperation, air, energy, people-to-people connectivity, right? So tourism, higher education, normal mundane things have been referred to. While they discussed the issue, the sore points, the legacy issue between India and Sri Lanka, which is the fishermen issue and the Tamil question, right? So fishermen issue is, this is India, this is Sri Lanka. So Indian fishermen have been moving towards the Sri Lankan waters. So this has been happening. So because of this, Indian fishermen get arrested. So that is one issue. And so Sri Lanka are not happy with India on this matter. And we are not happy that our fishermen are arrested. Besides, the northern part of Sri Lanka has Tamil population. Right. So we are concerned with the welfare of the Tamil population in Sri Lanka. And for that purpose, we recommended to Sri Lanka that more autonomy should be given to the Tamil provinces. And for that, 13th Amendment is mentioned. 13th Amendment to Sri Lanka Constitution, which provides for more autonomy to the provinces, the northern provinces or the Tamil provinces. So this has not happened. So these are the legacy issues. So we have stepped aside these two, and we have looked at further intensifying our relationship. Sri Lanka's president said that we go by the neighborhood first policy, that is, India is our neighbor. So first priority will be given to India, which is indicative that we will not prioritize China, which I don't believe that is true. The next thing he said was neighborhood first and Sagar. Sagar is the initiative of India, that is security and growth for all in the region. So that we are aligned to this framework of India, that is neighborhood first and Sagar. So these two are the important pillars for Sri Lanka. And besides going by the recent things between India and Sri Lanka, it's also economic integration. For example, emphasis on improving maritime connectivity, development of ports and logistics at Colombo, Trinokomali, Kankesh, Santurai near Jaffna, resumption of ferry services. So all this will lead to better connectivity and economic integration between the two countries. Besides, India providing its expertise in public digital infrastructure such as UPI, etc. So basically we are seeing intensification of ties. In fact, when Sri Lanka was reeling under a debt crisis, where there are a lot of problems, India provided them unconditional $4 billion in aid. Now, why is this happening? Why are we looking at intensifying our relationship? And even though we have legacy issues, we are willing to sidestep that issue for the time being. So for both countries, for Sri Lanka, the crisis is still there. The economic crisis that was there 2-3 years back, that is still prevailing. And they need India's support. And Sri Lanka, one of the reasons was Sri Lanka had heavily borrowed from China, which they were not able to pay back. So they required India's help in that regard. And from India's perspective, it is again China. We are concerned that China is getting too close to our neighborhood, which is a national security risk. Tomorrow we may have submarines, etc., or the international waters where all these resources are there, they may be mining. So our share will get down. So for what lot of reasons, we are concerned about the prevalence of China in the Indian Ocean region. This is of key concern for us. Okay. So that is the main reason. The China shadow is the primary reason of India and Sri Lanka intensifying relations. Next article, I'll do this very briefly, the Oppenheimer dilemma. So Oppenheimer is known as the father of the atomic bomb. He's the person who made the atomic bomb, and we know how much destruction it can take place. So he made this bomb, but then at the same time, it is this nuclear bomb which has acted as a deterrence against war. For instance, China may not like to go into war with India, full-scale war with India, because they know that India is a nuclear power. Because both countries have nuclear weapons, nuclear arsenal, so they don't go into a full-fledged war. So maybe this has actually led to peace. Internet from a sachet. So Wi-Fi hotspot pouches distributed through PM Vani can be game changer. Not interested. So what is PM Vani? Just let us look at this. So PM Vani stands for PM, of course, Wi-Fi, Vani, Wi-Fi Access Network Interface. So public hotspot, public places, you can get this internet at low cost. So that can be done. By the way, I'll just suggest that these areas or risk, cybersecurity risk, just avoid if you actually have to ever do it. Especially free Wi-Fi is available. Moving on to the international section, Israel passes law limiting judiciary. This was the reason why there was protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, because he was facing certain corruption charges. So at the same time, they have limited judiciary, powers of the judiciary. One of the Russian building was recently attacked. So Russia says that Ukrainian drone strike near army headquarters. So because of this, there will be retaliation. Twitter has changed its logo. Okay. This I'm not doing. Income Tax Department to wrap up over 1 lakh assessment notices by March 2024. Okay. So there was this news that people have obviously filed income tax returns. So of this, some wrongdoings have come to notice, and 1 lakh returns, 1 lakh notices have been issued to the filers. For example, false rent agreement. So that's the common practice that happens. So such things are there. So for that, 1 lakh notices have been issued. Okay. Now, what we see over here is what the basic points from the article. So the finance minister is making a speech, and she's saying that we have not increased the tax rate. Interest rates have not, the tax rates have not increased, but we still see good revenue collection. Now, this can happen when more people are brought under the ambit of direct taxes. So widening of the tax base. Now, besides this, there is another point. I'm just talking conceptually. There is another point known as tax buoyancy. Buoyancy is indicator of, let me just write this. If the GDP increases in same proportion, the tax should also increase. If GDP is, if we can say it is less buoyant, buoyant means ability to float. If the GDP is increasing with a great deal, but tax are marginally increasing, so that would mean that taxing is not efficient. Right? So we want a proportionate increase over here. That is known as tax buoyancy. With the GDP, the tax collection should be proportionate. So tax base has increased. This can be because of simplicity. This can be because of use of artificial intelligence to track the people who are not filing or wrongly reporting their incomes. So that can be there. In fact, this also 1 lakh issues, 1 lakh notices were issued. This was also based on the software of the government. Now, cases up to 6 years are being reopened for those who have filed the ITR and some wrongdoings are felt was there. So reopening of cases. Now, one of the reasons for tax base could also be the fear of getting caught. Maybe now, this will push them to file the ITR correctly. So this is all we have today's newspaper. Rest we have the sports news. So thank you for streaming into our channel IASPrimers.